It always gives me joy when I see younger generations making wise choices. And it is only because typically when we're young, it's not that we don't have guidance, but depending on the person, people don't listen, people have to learn the hard way. And that doesn't always have to be the case. You can look at what you've seen prior to you and say, I'm not going to do that. Well, that's what Emani Richardson is doing when it comes to her dad, little Scrappy, her mom, Dixon, Momma Dee, her grandmama, and her stepmother or ex-stepmother, the Bam. Of course, we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to voice it.
We're about to voice it with Friend Love One. Tune in.
Welcome to Voice It with Fran Lavoie, and I'm your host, Fran Lavoie. And from the intro, you know that we're speaking about Emani Dixon. Emani, or Emani, the way that they used to say it on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, is the daughter of Atlanta-based rapper Lil Scrappy and TV personality Dixon. She was featured on Love and Hip Hop frequently between 2012 and beyond. She's a beautiful little girl, 20 years old. She was on live and she was answering questions. And I'm just going to play for you what she said based on the question that she was asked. All right.
Your past relationship changes your views on dating? Y'all, my parents have made me not want kids like that. I'm getting married, and I have to be married for at least 3 years before. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to be married for at least 3 years before I have the baby because I feel like, especially my dad and his marriage, that scared me because at first, it was cool, and then it just went to I don't want to be like that. And I feel like, no offense, Dad, but I feel like when I'm in a relationship, I don't have pride. I feel like my parents and the people I've seen them in a relationship with, they have too much pride. When I'm in a relationship with somebody, I don't want to have pride. I don't want to feel bad that I want you back and that I feel like I'm wrong. I feel like we have too much pride. These new generations, I feel like my daddy, them, and even my generation, I feel like we have too much pride. What you mean if I'm wrong, I can't chase after my man, or I'm a stupid, dumb person? If I'm wrong, and if I want to go get my man back, I got to be scared to get my man back because he might have pride and post what I'm texting him. I feel like it's just too much pride. If we in love and we love each other and we not cheating or doing nothing crazy, why we can't go hard for each other? I don't know. That be blowing me. He should have went. You never know. But yes, I feel like they just have too much pride. What you mean y'all didn't try to go to counseling first? What you mean, y'all just break up or divorce? I feel like this new generation, they don't even try. They just be F it. Which is nothing wrong. If your man is continuously cheating on you, leave him. Just go on a date. Just go on a date. Make that man take you shopping and go back home, and I promise you'll feel better. You don't have to do much. I promise. These men are slow. I promise you don't have to do much. They're slow. I've always wondered how dating goes for lives for. I wonder if I do hear from me or my people. Honestly and truly, it's easy to realize that. A dude tells you his intentions. All you got to do is listen. The difference is, it's it don't matter if you're a celebrity or you're just a regular girl. Let me tell you something. How women look at dudes and be like, oh, he got money or he got this. Men do the same thing. They're not stupid. I promise you. They may act gullible, but they're not. I have a lot of boys. I have a lot of homeboys. I have a lot of uncles. And I have a father. And me and my daddy talk. One thing about it, men look at us the same way as we look at them. The only thing is they know their worth. They not finna sit around with no lazy female all the time. They gonna keep hopping to the next. And that's why I'm not gonna lie, sometimes we be mad. But women listen. If you cheat on your man outside of 10, he's going to leave. Women need to start doing the same thing. Stop giving them second chances. Because then they go to another girl thinking that girl's going to give them a second chance. And they keep giving all these women hell. And these mamas, these boy mamas, stop treating, Y'all, I always say this. I be feeling like my granny semi-failed with my dad because sometimes my dad be thinking he the prize and he's not. Like, sorry, Daddy. But, like, I feel like my granny raised him with, like, well, my dad was raised by his father, too. So my dad is a gentleman. My dad opened the door, he do all that. But I feel like a lot of moms baby their son. Stop babying your son because you're babying him and then he goes out in the real world expecting for us women to baby him. And I'm not babying no man. So, my daddy raised me, have your own, and when a man come on, he should be an add-on. And if he can't add on, then he got to get the hell on. Period. And I feel like a lot of moms enable their sons. No, you cannot enable them. You really cannot. Teach them how to clean just like you taught your daughter how to clean. Teach them to take out the trash. Teach them. Another thing I see in a lot of black community, a lot of black moms be having their son sitting down while their daughter cleaning up the kitchen. What type of stupid, ignorant junk is that? You don't think when he live on his own, you got to clean up too?
All right. So you just heard what Emani had to say. And very, very interesting. She said a mouthful, and I can't lie. I think, and I'm very impressed with her thought process at the age of 20. It's not that 20-year-olds or younger don't have these thought processes, but sometimes it's not articulated, and sometimes it's not thought all the way through by them. So they have the thoughts circulating in your mind, and that happens to all of us. Sometimes you have these thoughts circulating in your head, and you're just not like really saying what needs to be said. But she landed her thoughts very, very well and clear, and it is very wise. And I just want to talk on it and just give my opinion. So we have to start by understanding the history. I gave just a touch of it in the beginning with the intro. Scrappy was displayed on TV as an F-boy and still is. So when he, premiered with his baby's mother, Erica Dixon, on Love and Hip Hop in 2012, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, that is, he was basically taking Erica Dixon through it. They had Emani. Emani had to have been 6 or 7 years old at the time of airing initially, and they was just on that show wilding. I have to say, that is some of the most entertaining reality TV ever. And for those of you who are like, how could you watch shows like that? Oh my God. Touch your nose. I'm not going to change what I watch, and I'm not going to change what I find entertaining just because you think it's immature. That's number one. Number two, even though it was entertaining, there is insight to see this is some sad stuff. I don't like what I'm seeing. Namely, Erica basically running around, and not necessarily that she was running after Scrappy, but Erica on the show, first of all, very beautiful woman. Some of the most beautiful, like God took his time with her. Beautiful cheekbones, just beautiful shape. I always enjoyed Erica Dixon on the show because I felt like she was a great friend and she wasn't about the foolishness, but she had to have been a part of some foolishness if she entertained the likes of Scrappy. And when I say the likes of Scrappy, I say it with all due respect because we all go through immature times and we all have to grow as individuals. But Scrappy was out here playing games. 1 minute they were on, the next minute they were off. And eventually Erica moved on with her life. They were engaged briefly and she was just like, nah, and he was really salty about it. He felt a type of way. And you can tell that her finally deciding to walk away after what I would presume alleged just on and off foolishness, him probably cheating, he accuses her of whatever, just your typical on and off relationship type stuff where misunderstandings, poor intentions, and other issues arise. The fact is, when we look, it doesn't make Scrappy look great that he was the one going from girl to girl, and he led Shay Johnson on. Shay was she Boots? I'm not sure. On Flavor of Love, the reality star contestant from Flavor of Love and Charm School. She was on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta and Love and Hip Hop Miami. And, he led Shay on. Then he went on to date other people. And he's been seen all around, kind of like showing F-boy ways. Erica's not innocent. Obviously, she participated. But Emani, their daughter, is pretty much talking about that. It is the fact that the participation was there. The fact that there was a sense of worthlessness in what Erica could have done better, and Scrappy being enabled to be the way that he is. So after they broke up and they split up, they would go on to beef. I remember one reunion on Love and Hip Hop where I feel like this is when he was in a relationship with Bambi, who would be his wife for 6 years, and they would share 3 children. I feel like she said that he was at like a hotel with her, having her for lunch, breakfast, or dinner while he was in a relationship, allegedly. And so that's just a mess, that if that was actually true, then that's a, head scratcher too, because it's like, okay, you say you're done with this guy, but now you're over here letting him in. And, I'm gonna always keep it real, even though, yes, I'm a follower of Christ. Listen, if you have a past and a sexual past, you know that it's difficult to let go of somebody, namely, and I can imagine someone that you have a child with. There's a closeness, there's a bond, and you're just simply attracted to a person. So it's like, if they offer in and you have that itch that needs to be scratched, well, come on in, right? And it doesn't make it right, and I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that in human nature, these things happen. But even with Bambi, who ended up being his wife, she was an artist. She went from Basketball Wives, LA, down to Atlanta, down to the Miami cast. And, it's just a lot. Like, Scrappy at one point was dating Diamond from Crime Mob. They broke up. I think he was on and off with Erica at that point. Then Erica was like, nah, I'm good. Then he was dating Bambi. They broke up. And then, it looked like, he was looking for her at one point after that relationship fell through, and they got married. I remember when they got engaged on the show. I don't know if they stayed engaged at that point and got married subsequently after, or if they broke up after that engagement and then, he found her, they married quickly, and then they started having kids. But in between that, he was living the married life. And then about 2 or 3 seasons ago, their marriage just unraveled. And there were a lot of allegations of cheating, a lot of allegations of, him not paying bills, him not living up to certain standards, and then Scrappy basically saying that she wasn't doing what she needed to do. She plays the victim all the time. She's not always right. There was a point where there was a reality spinoff of Love and Hip Hop where Erica was reintroduced to the cast, and it looked like they had a conversation. And even Emani was opening up at one point on her live about her relationship with Bambi not being the best. Bambi spazzed. It seemed like she misunderstood. It's just a lot of mess, right? Like, shout out to all the media outlets that catch all these things, for us to know and to talk about. It's amazing how they find these things, but, it gives us conversation about real life situations that happen every day. So I just think that she saw all of that and she was like, nah, I'm good. In the beginning of her discussion, answering the question, she said it makes her not want to have kids. And Emani is a young girl. And I'm sure that if she follows her own advice about what she said, like if a man is cheating on you, leave him, date somebody else. The one part that I kind of gave the side eye when she was like, if you're feeling down or whatever, have that man take you to the store and buy you some things, you'll feel much better. Excuse me. A little retail therapy does lift your spirits, but there's deeper work that has to be done. But I feel what she's saying. It's like, if you see that things are not going the way that they should, do something to lift your spirits or allow someone to help you in that area. But I would hope that, we would do the extra work if we're enlightened to it to just move on in the best way possible. So besides that, I just think that their relationship history is crazy. Not to mention that Scrap, right after his divorce, had a threesome and got one of the girls in the threesome pregnant. And, that's his third baby mom. So let's see. That is a total of 5 children for him. And I believe, even though he's cool with that baby mom, he's in another relationship with a very beautiful girl. I don't know if they're still together or not, but it's like he just is a serial dater and a serial I'm moving on person when things don't sit right. Now, all of these people have done several interviews. And I remember at one point, Erica and Scrap, when he was going through his divorce, they started to become cool again. And some people can say it was for the kids. Oh, it's for, the sake of me and Emani and making sure she sees. But come on, bro. We know that y'all still had feelings for each other eternally. I think Erica just wasn't going to take none of the foolishness. Or at one point, it did look like Erica was falling back into that trap of being attracted to him and wanting to see where it went. That's just my opinion. And then she probably had to realize, nah, baby, this just ain't gonna work, and decided to move on. Or perhaps he did some, repetitive, stereotypical, I'm Scrappy stuff and made her see that this just wasn't going to work. And that's all possible, right? So I think that, it wasn't a great look. And, even though they look cute together, when they were doing these interviews, I think they did an interview on Carlos King and they looked booed up. They were taking vacation together. They were cool. They were saying that they were simply just friends, but it looked like it was more than friends. It looked like, they both was giving each other the biznae. So that's his little lingo if you don't know. But nonetheless, I'm glad that they both moved on from that, particularly Erica. whether it was mutual or whether not. I just don't think them getting back together at the time would have been good. It's okay to love people and realize, yeah, this just not gonna work, or you out here wilding, I ain't gonna do it, right? So then, she did speak on mothers enabling their children and their sons particularly. And she was obviously talking about Momma Dee. Now, Momma Dee is the mother of Scrappy. And on the show, you do see her, and even on social media, clapping back at people, clapping back at the fans and at people on the show who give the hint of hating on her son or speaking bad about her prince, because she refers to her whole situation as the palace. And no, I'm gonna read a response that Momma Dee did give recently, about 4 hours ago to the time of this taping. And she said, responding to Emani, I'm going to say this. You can teach your children what they need. Once they get grown, they do what the hell they want to do. And there's nothing that parents can do when they're grown ASS kids. Leave their house, but nothing. Pray and hope that they do use the things that they taught to them in their homes when they were younger for them to do. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this. If they do not do it, there's nothing a parent can do, and in that order. She always say in that order. Now, Momma Dee is basically evading her responsibility in this and saying, look, I taught my son whatever I needed to teach him. If he choose to take it, then he choose to take it. If not, then he just ain't take it. Well, Momma Dee, I agree with you, but it's not congruent with the public perception that you've put out there that you gonna ride for your son no matter what. It don't matter if he's 41 years old. I'm a ride for my son. It sounds like she's backpedaling and Uchi popping, because no, Momma Dee, you do portray yourself as the ride or die mom. No matter what, my son is justified in his actions. I'm not going to say that she always agrees with what her son does, but does she justify his actions? 100%, in my opinion. I think that, it's hard to reflect and look at yourself in the mirror when everything is being thrown at you by verbatim of your actions, for you to admit that even though your intentions were pure, they still derailed a person off the track that you perceived you were putting them on. I think that Momma Dee is a great mother in the sense that she's going to always ride for her children, no matter how young, small, old, or big they are. But at the end of the day, responsibility and accountability and the truth is the truth. Emani kept saying, sorry, dad, but you're not the prize, pretty much. And, I heard my homeboy say this today, we're Christian, we follow Christ. No one is the prize but Jesus. And when we recognize God as the prize and as the blessing of our lives, we follow the word, it teaches us to treat one another with honor and respect, with loyalty and all the good things. So essentially, when we have things in that order, shout out to Momma Dee, we treat people with that decency and with that love and respect. So no one is above one another, and no one should think that they should be absolved or above reproach of being, respected, being honored. And it implies that he doesn't honor women. He's a gentleman, but there's a difference between being a gentleman opening doors and, doing all the stereotypical gentlemanly stuff, and then being a douche everywhere else. So it's like you're nice and you're kind. You say, hello, ma'am, let me open the door. Let me put you in the car and let me do you wrong. But do you wrong with a smile. Do you wrong while giving you a hug, and do you wrong while I'm paying for your dinner. Doing you wrong and not being faithful to you while I'm doing all these nice things that you can go back and tell people like, ooh, child, he paid for dinner. Ooh, child, he walked me to my door. Ooh, child, he did this. Ooh, child, he did that. But ooh, child, he's not faithful. Ooh, child, he fussed me out. Ooh, child, he's not paying bills. And all the things that have been alleged. You know, we don't know the truth. You know, all those things came out of the mouths of these women. And if it's true, then he definitely isn't the prize or acting like prize material. But there's always a responsibility on accepting behavior time and time again, covering up behavior because that's just my man, and I can't, or that's just my friend, or that's just my son. And people make mistakes. And there's another thing to say, yes, while people make mistakes, and that's my loved one, for you was wrong or what you was doing. What's going on? You need to fix yourself. So I'm proud of Emani. I think that, her insights come from the obvious experience she had watching, and I think that if she keeps this mindset up, maintains in her femininity, maintains her standards, she will get with someone who is worth her time. I really do hope out of loneliness that she doesn't go back on what she's saying. I really hope that that she's not so desperate for love at a certain point that she goes against the grain of her perspective today just to say that she has a man tomorrow. I hope that this don't cause drama. I'm going to take a quick look and see if anybody had anything to say, in the time that that she said this. And I don't think so. I think that it was just, her grandma. I think it was just Momma Dee that came out. If there is any other, things to say, I guess we missed it. But I want you guys to drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about Emani Richardson's thoughts. Have you ever been in a situation where you watched your parents or older siblings or just people in your family, people in your friend groups, coworkers, whatever it is, do things and you were like, I'm going to learn from that and not do it? Have you found yourself in these situations, and has someone from the younger generation expressed to you that they didn't like the example that you set apart? They didn't like the decisions that you made, and it changed the scope of how they would make decisions. Have you been in any one of these positions? Have you been an enabler, And as a result of you enabling a situation, namely a son, namely a daughter, has that worked out in their favor? Yeah, I thought this was great. I think the last thing that I would say is that if you're a young person, or even if you are a middle-aged to older person, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to grow. And there's always an opportunity to not follow in the footsteps of another person just because of anything, It definitely touched me to talk about this because I can think about times where I have certainly made mistakes that I look at, and I wouldn't want my niece to make the same mistakes I made. And I have definitely learned from seeing, older family members and, things that I've seen in my mom and how she's, enabled situations that I've learned from too, you know? We can always learn good and bad from people. And, just like Emani said, she shared some great characteristics that her dad had, but also realized that there were things that she did not want to pick up from her parents. So and her grandma and her in-laws. So there's always a lesson to be learned. No judgments. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'd like to thank you for your support in this channel, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Fran Lavoie. Thank you so much for listening to this video and watching it. Now, if you like this one, there's plenty others where that came from. Be sure to check out my channel, like, comment, share, and subscribe.